Paratroopers are typically dispersed, particularly if they've arrived by parachute, so they fight in small units, same in 1944 as they would now, and therefore the critical characteristics are about low-level initiative and low-level leadership, because paratroopers are born to be surrounded, and they've got to fight surrounded, so therefore they've got to be tenacious, violent, lethal, and high levels of initiative and high levels of low-level leadership. We're in Canada, British Army Training Unit Suffield, and this was the home of all of our armoured training for decades in the Cold War, and it is being reopened in order to create incredible training opportunities for contemporary land combat, which is increasingly focused on long-range, uncrewed systems and electronic warfare.
The massive change is the amount of data that's now being thrown around the battlespace.
And you confirm those details in the blood bank with me?
I could get someone in, take their blood and send it off on a drone to a person further on in the field if needs be.
You could move a very light force very fast on e-bikes with uncrewed systems on their back, or indeed with anti-tank missiles on their back, to penetrate enemy lines, engage and then extract.
This helps us get in quickly, get the strike, get the kill, and then move off in the area and get tasked with a different tasking.
We're an army that's preparing to deter war, but we're preparing for war, and we're experimenting on that basis in order to learn how to fight differently.
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the enemy, and that consists of using all our sensors, but also taking the targets from our higher headquarters.
Serial 2 vital information then. So we've just seen the forward elements of the 144 enter our brigade battle space. Enemy forces.
Okay, so in the last hour we've seen 2 enemy UAS over objective Cedar here. So they are likely conducting route recce for the enemy forces main body, looking for the best routes possible to get into 16 Brigade AO. Then north of them we've seen 1 T-72 which has been marked as Banbury. This is the lead element of the 1st Enemy Motor Rifle Regiment, their first echelon. So doctrinally, this means that their regimental artillery group will be 12 to 17 kilometres north of their position behind them.
So sensors are the sort of first part of the chain to try and speed up a response.
226 and SEMA are established out to the north on Mount Anonymous, which is to the top of the visual now, and they're looking to detect and degrade enemy UAS.
The Phantom Platoon is developing homebrew kits, self-taught in some cases, but now backed by industry.
So Phantom Platoon originated about 2.5 years ago. We built a remote emitter that pretended to be a headquarters in the EMS, and then we quickly found out that we could also use that emitter to jam communications. We built that ourselves, as there was nothing that we could procure that could do that. And then as we realised that we could do that, we then moved on to building other devices that could answer other technical problems. What we really pose is the ability to get after problems quickly and dynamically, and also change stuff on the fly. We ran our first selection cadre to go from a small cell within 2 para of 5 people to become a 16-person platoon. And when we designed that course, the key tenets we had was sort of like networking, cyber competence and coding competence. We wanted them to have an aptitude to be able to understand electronic warfare and radio frequency. We wanted them to be physically robust, as when we deploy, we are normally beyond the line of our own troops. I also wanted to look at behavioural aptitude as well, so can they brief well, can they be trusted with quite a lot of power in their hands in the EMS, and then lastly, most importantly, like their fieldcraft and their recce soldering.
We're trying to think and fight differently, and the basis of that is recce-strike, and the fundamentals of recce-strike is identifying and categorising, so knowing where the enemy is and knowing which bit of the enemy system you want to attack.
What we have out currently now is remote ground sensors. And what it's seeing there is 2 targets, and it is feeding them into the sighting reports as entities. I've captured this thing here, which means the staff back in the headquarters can then start to triage that, put it into a rack and stack those targets, and then queue an effector to go and strike those objects.
Roger, hostile report, Alpha, Lima Alpha, 002.
In headquarters, they are able to identify through the footage, but then also they would probably have a secondary confirmatory asset go and either fly over or something in order to do that. It's really important to have humans involved in this process and not fully automate it.
The massive change is the amount of data that's now being thrown around the battle space. The integration, pulling the systems together into one screen or one place to then, part supported by AI, make a decision about how you want to then affect the enemy you can see or you've sensed. So part of Exercise RHINO BIZZ is working out those lessons. So how much data is too much data? What feeds does a headquarters need to be able to see? Do you actually need that video feed from that looking drone, that ISR drone, beams back into that particular part of the headquarters or that particular part of the battle space? You might not, and that's wasted bandwidth. So being on an exercise like this and working out what's appropriate, that's what we're starting to learn. And you can only do that by doing something on this scale, something with this level of ambition, properly getting the kit out, having industry bring a range of different drones, different systems, different sensors, radars, EW jammers, etc., stitching all together and start to learn those lessons. How much data is too much data? Are we swamping section commanders? Are we not providing them enough data? Etc., discuss. But to have those proper informed discussions, debates, we need the data from something like this exercise to meaningfully make a decision on where things should go in the direction of travel from here.
I just thought combat medic, do a bit of combat medicing, just emergency trauma. I didn't think about flying anything. Never thought I'd touch a drone. So I'm Lance Corporal Snoots and I work with 2 PARA RAP. I am a Class 1 medic, but I also fly drones for the medics and I also do blood donation and management of EDPs. And then when we go out, if we need any blood, if there is a requirement and we don't have it, we can get someone in and then take their blood and I can now fly it out on a drone.
So that's just one unit we're sending, Webber, so if you need another, let us know.
I've been doing courses over the past 1.5 years to get my licence to fly drones. I've done an FPV course as well, just to get myself even more clued up with drones.
And you can confirm those details on the blood bag with me. So we've been able to get communication and telemed reach back with the CMT. It allows the CMT1 on the ground to get reach back with a higher clinician, so either a nurse, a doctor, or even your specialists that are even further away. It could benefit us with not necessarily a CMT, but soldiers are now trained in CLS, combat life-saving support, so someone who doesn't have as much medical experience, they will have the confidence from speaking to a clinician to help them with their casualty.
Should I gain access in the injured side?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, happy.
And then just administer those that blood as soon as you can. That was right ACF, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a massive opportunity, to be honest. It feels good to be a part of it and to be one of the main people and to be able to do these things that I don't have to have many people around with me. I can just do it myself, which is good. So I could be out with the blokes and I could be able to source it in any location really. Austere environments, non-austere, all good.
Sure.
Two PARA mortars, their FPV section, and 5 free battery are looking to establish in the vicinity of Stubbs Landing, where they'll look to find and then prosecute further targets.
So we're doing a counter UAS serial, so we're going to launch the drone. We're going to launch them one at a time as it's the first time it's been done. We've got British and Canadian, they're going to use the shotguns to take the drone out of the sky. So the drone's going to fly about 800 metres from our location and then come back in from 60 metres higher, drop down to about 4 metres. And it's going to be moving about 20 meters a second. This is brand new. This is the first time anyone in 16 Air Assault Brigade, and as far as I'm aware, the entire army is using these specific drones for this. When you look at the war in Ukraine and Russia, it's mainly just drones out there. Everything that's happening, it's all FPV drones and dropper drones. And as an army, we want to keep up with everyone else. We want to make sure we're not stuck in the past, so we're moving towards drones. And with that, you need to make sure you bring the capability of counter drones along as well.
The essence of this exercise is about trying to change urgently, and that's why it's called Exercise BIZZ, the word BIZZ, because the fun story is that in May of 1943, a man called Field Marshal Alan Brooke, who's the Chief of the Imperial General Staff, called another guy called Acting Major General Richard Windy Gale into his office, and he said, "Windy, in 1 year's time, we're going to invade France. And I want you to prepare a brand new airborne division to drop at the back of the beaches and secure those beaches on D-Day." And so Windy Gale left Field Marshal Alan Brooke's office knowing that he had to do something really quite new, which was build a new airborne division. We already had one airborne division, but it didn't fight as a division. So he had to find the tactics, technology and techniques to build the division and then fight the division. And in order to work out how to seize two bridges, the bridge over the Caen Canal and the bridge over the River Orne, he designed something called Exercise BIZZ in early 1944, which was to experiment with different ways of seizing those bridges. The result of that experiment was the decision to use gliders in a coup de main operation. And on the basis of their performance on Exercise BIZZ in 1944, he selected a company of the Ox and Bucks Light Infantry, led by a man called Major John Howard, who then very successfully and famously seized Pegasus Bridge on the evening of the 6th of June, or rather the eve of the 6th of June, 1944. And that was one of the most instrumental actions in securing those beaches, preventing the German counterattack and eventually securing that lodgement. One among many very heroic actions that day and that night. On Exercise BIZZ, in 1944, it was all about experimentation. And we're here with a similar sense of urgency. We're an army that's preparing to deter war, but we're preparing for war. And we're experimenting on that basis in order to learn how to fight differently. And e-bikes are a good example. So paratroopers are typically dispersed, particularly if they've arrived by parachute. So they fight in small units, same in 1944 as they would now. And therefore the critical characteristics are about low-level initiative and low-level leadership, because paratroopers are born to be surrounded and they've got to fight surrounding. So therefore they've got to be tenacious, violent, lethal, and high levels of initiative and high levels of low-level leadership. And that's the sort of characteristics we're trying to breed here. And the e-bike is an example of that, which gives us additional mobility in order to generate lethality, because you can find and kill enemy targets if you can move around the battlefield. And movement on the contemporary battlefield, in the age of persistent observation from drones, is really hard. And motorbikes are actually becoming increasingly useful, we think, and we're seeing that in Ukraine.
Trialling the e-bike capability has been really exciting in the Parachute Regiment. We're always walking about on our black taxis, so giving us the manoeuvre and the freedom to move about is something exciting, and we're interested to see how far this can go.
Strike. Strike. Let's go. Charlie, let's go. Right, get the two in the back. So. Yeah, that'll do. Let's go, Stalin.
So the quickest version of Rhino Biz is we're here to learn how to fight in a contemporary modern sense, fight differently, doing sense decide through an integrated network to deliver effect, which is effectively see the enemy faster, make a decision quicker, and kill them further away faster than they can do the same cycle back against us. And we're doing reps and sets here to make sure we are ready to go forward, deploy to deliver deterrence as and when it's required.